We want to welcome you this afternoon for our Fellowship for Today Spiritual Center Sunday service. And we're happy to have all of you joining us today. I just have a couple of announcements for you. We had a wonderful fundraiser concert, and we still are finding that the donations are trickling in. So please don't think it's over, and you can still make a donation. You can still listen to the concert on our Facebook page as well as our website. So we'll be watching for those donations. Thank you so much for all your generosity. Coming up on October 4th for our Sunday service, we'll be celebrating the Feast of St. Francis with a blessing of the animals. And we are so looking forward to this, and I think everybody is going to have so much fun seeing all of the animals, our pets and our beloved furry friends. So please send us a photo that we can include in the service. And if you're wondering how to do that or having problems doing that, just give me a call or Samantha a call here at the office, and we'll assist you with that. We need those photos by October 1st. So just look for the cutest ones and send them along. Thank you so much. And now we're going to have an opening prayer, and I'd like to invite all of you to just take a deep breath, close your eyes, let all the busyness of the day fade away. You might place your hands on your heart as we focus in on this sacred heart space. Just follow your breathing for a moment as we quiet our minds. Together we affirm that there is only one divine presence, one creative intelligence that is all wise, all powerful, and everywhere present. And we affirm that the essence of our very being is this presence, this loving divine presence. It surrounds us and moves through us, as us, into the world. And the awareness of our complete union with presence, source, God, fills us with joy and harmony. Right now in our human experience, we embrace the transition of the seasons from summer to fall. And fall reminds us that all things change. We use this transition as an opportunity to allow change. And we easily and effortlessly let go of summer with no resistance. We release negativity and judgment and criticism, all fear, and the Spirit within us makes all things new. Aligned with pure love, we see and feel the beauty of peace that surrounds us, the beauty of this planet that surrounds us, the golden sunlight and the explosion of beautiful colors. Fall is a reminder to savor every moment and every manifestation in our lives. And we're so grateful and so deeply appreciative to be able to experience this beautiful, beautiful time of year. This season that ushers us into quiet and rest of winter. The season that still allows us to go out into nature and commune and be one with the beauty that surrounds us. And together we say, and so it is, and so it is. Thank you so much. Thank you. We have a wonderful song for you today from our very beloved artist that comes to the fellowship all the time and graces us with her talent and beautiful voice. So let's just settle in and listen to a lovely song by Linda Abar.
Hello, fellowship. This is my peace song, our peace song, We Are Peace. Please sing along. We
Thank you so much, Linda, for that beautiful song. We appreciate you so much, and you are such a treasured member of our fellowship family, and we appreciate your devotion to our fellowship community. Thank you again. This is a time in our service where we stop and really take some time to be grateful. Just be grateful for all of the gifts and blessings in our lives. We have so many, and especially in this beautiful season when we look around us and see all of the beautiful things that nature is bringing forth to us. The generosity of all of you who are donating so regularly to the fellowship community. And so let's just take this moment to be grateful and to express our thanks. We know that abundance is the flow of divine energy in our lives, in our world. And we know that giving and receiving are just one. They're just one in truth. So I invite you now to join us in the blessing of the tithes and offerings. You'll see it on the screen here. The light of divine love shines eternally, blessing and multiplying our tithes and offerings. I joyously give, knowing I always have enough to share and to spare. Thank you again for your generosity. And now we're happy to introduce the speaker for this afternoon. He's been joining us a little bit more in this last year, and we're always so happy to have him. Please settle in and listen to a wonderful message from Fred Stella.
Namaste. My name is Fred Stella, and I'm honored, as I always am, to speak to you as we gather virtually through cyberspace to enjoy fellowship. And I want to congratulate you. I understand that you're celebrating 37 years as a spiritual community this month. I think that is a tremendous testimony, I should say, to both those of you who are involved in the congregation and the leadership. Because I know you don't have a mother denomination to support you through any lean times that you might have. You are an entity unto yourselves. And to make that work, as you have done, it takes a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of spiritual effort, and also the ability to work through any personal difficulties that you might have with one another, as they obviously happen from time to time. So you're doing a wonderful thing, and I certainly hope that I'm invited to speak during your 40th and your 50th year anniversaries. Let's begin with a meditation, shall we? So get into a comfortable position. But by comfortable, I don't mean that you should be lying down, unless, of course, it's the only way that you can meditate. Try to sit with purpose, meaning that the spine should be erect. If you're sitting in a chair, the spine should be somewhat away from the back of the chair. The shoulders are back, the chest is out. Now, for the next few moments, let's just observe our breathing. This is a very basic meditation technique. And while it seems simple, of course, those of you who have attempted this know that it's not easy to pay special attention to each inhalation and each exhalation, without moving the mind away from the process of respiration. It takes a tremendous amount of concentration. During these next few moments, as you feel the inhalations and exhalations as they come and go, pay attention to the coolness as the breath enters the nostrils and the warmth as it exits. And each time you feel the mind moving away from this process, bring it back gently and lovingly. By that, I mean, do not fall into the trap of self-criticism or frustration. Let go of any attachment to results. Simply feel the breath. Stop for a moment just now and ask yourself, where was my attention? Where was my mind? If it wasn't on the breath, bring it back. Now, in these final moments, let's focus on gratitude. Feel such thanksgiving for whatever material comforts you have, whatever pets you might have, whatever loving relationships you might have. Let's end by chanting Om together. Om. All right. I have a kitty around here who is looking for a little bit of attention. She can wait a few minutes for that to happen. So today I thought I would talk to you about the broader school of yoga. I may have mentioned this in previous talks that I've given before, but I thought maybe I'd expand a bit on it. When people in the West think of yoga, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm late for my yoga," what do you think of? I would suspect most people would say, "Oh, okay, so this person is going to get into some very loose-fitting attire, is going to lay a mat out on the floor, and then is going to get into some postures and maybe focus on breathing and all of that." And that's true. That is yoga. That's hatha yoga. But yoga is so much broader than that. Yoga means union, union with the divine. And these asanas, these postures that we get into, are very helpful on a number of levels. But that's not yoga. You can't twist your way back to God. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I wanted to provide some history. So where does yoga come from? Well, the actual origins are lost to history. Yoga is extremely ancient. And of course, it comes out of the tradition of Hinduism. But you don't have to be a Hindu to practice it, by no means. Yoga is not a belief system any more than, say, walking or running is. By that, I mean this. If your doctor tells you, for your health, I recommend you walk a mile a day or 2 miles a day, you have to have some belief in that physician's words that, yes, in fact, walking a mile a day or however long is going to benefit my health. But you base your belief on science. Yoga is the same way, Hatha Yoga, where you don't have to believe in anything religiously to do it. If you do it, even before you do it, if you want to look at the studies and show what Hatha Yoga can do for you, you will probably be convinced. Yes, assuming that I don't have any maladies that would impede me doing this position or that position, I think it would be good for me. And then that helps encourage the habit to really instill it in your life. But the greater part of yoga does have certain spiritual and religious elements to it. So Patanjali is the great ancient Hindu sage who is said to, some use the word systematize, some oppose that word, but he certainly put yoga, he explained it as a plan. And he wrote a piece called the Yoga Sutras. Sutra means thread. And by that, he simply wrote in very terse statements, allowing teachers to take those statements and then expand and expound on the deeper meanings and teach to their level, or the level of the student. Now, there are 8 Shtangas. This is the eightfold Shtanga path. And Ashtanga means limb or branch. And these are not necessarily to be practiced where you go, well, first you do one, then you do the other, then you do that, all the way down to number 8. No, it's a system that constantly feeds on all 8 working together in your life. So it's not like you accomplish one perfectly and then move on to the next, nothing like that. And this is interesting. The very first limb of the yoga school of Patanjali is called Yama. And Yama means control. But in this sense, what Patanjali is asking the students of yoga to do is to base their practice on a foundation of morality and ethics. And essentially, he states that if you can't commit to that ideal of working towards a life of ethics and morality, then the rest of this stuff isn't going to do any good. You can meditate all day long, but if you can't practice these certain prohibitions, then that meditation might take you in the wrong direction. So he's encouraging us to make sure that we, again, have this foundation. We don't have to perfect it before we move on to something else. It just has to be the ideal. And let me stop here and relate a story. One day my wife came home and she brought with her a Bhagavad Gita. some of you may know that the Bhagavad Gita is one of Hinduism's most important scriptures. And I've spoken on the Gita before. And the reason she brought it home is because a friend had given it to her. A friend who had, I don't know whether he bought it or it was given to him, but he was very excited because he knew a little bit about the Hindu yoga tradition. And he came out of the Christian tradition, and he was looking for something new. Well, he gets into this Gita, and he sees that Lord Krishna, the main speaker in the Gita, talks about sin. And quite frankly, he'd had enough of sin, at least talk of sin, for the rest of his life growing up in the tradition he did. And he thought, oh my gosh, I thought those Hindus didn't deal with sin. Well, it was a bit of a surprise to him. I was happy to have another Gita in the household. But here's the thing. All of the great wisdom traditions have some element of understanding of sin, of not making the mark, if you will, which is what sin, translated out of the ancient Greek, means, just missing the mark, right? Probably many of you are aware of that. But then people move to other traditions thinking, oh, well, they don't have this concept. And I'm so tired of being called a sinner. That's the difference between Enlightenment traditions and traditional religion. Traditional religion, first of all, they spend way too much time talking about sin. And they teach that at our absolute core, we are sinners. We are sin itself. And only through this outside agent or agency are we even worthy to talk about God, to talk about divinity. The idea of having any sort of divine nature, that's heresy. So yes, according to Hindu teachings, we can and often do sin or make mistakes or have a lapse of moral judgment here and there in our lives. But like the tradition that you've been practicing for the last 37 years, those of you who have, you know that at our core, we are a part of divinity itself. We are not part of, sin is not part of our nature. It's like a covering, if you will, this identification with the ego. That's where we make our mistakes. But at our core, we are not. So it's good to balance the understanding that yes, we can have moral lapses, but we also have the promise that ultimately we are part and parcel of the divine, and nothing changes that. Those of you who are part of the Calvinist tradition or were part of the Calvinist tradition, well, for those of you who are not, let me tell you this. The Reformed tradition, which is more or less synonymous with the Calvinist tradition, they have created an acronym for the most important points of what they believe. Now, again, this is just for Calvinist Protestant Christianity. This is not all of Christianity. But if you're a Calvinist, you believe in the acronym of TULIP, T-U-L-I-P, and each letter stands for something. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but the T stands for total depravity. They believe that we are totally depraved. That's our nature, right? And we can do nothing about that. We are just totally depraved. Well, one time I was talking with someone and she was concerned that young Calvinists, members of the Reformed Church, they were taking Hatha Yoga classes, and at Hatha Yoga classes, the teacher would always say namaste, and they would say namaste back. Well, she was aware that namaste means the divinity in me bows to the divinity in you. And she had a hard time with that because that wasn't Calvinist Protestant doctrine, right? So I said, I'll tell you what, if you can get these kids to say Namasura, that might be better because it's still exotic, it's still Indian, but I think it might go better with your doctrine. She says, well, what does that mean? I said, Namasura, loosely translated, would mean the total depravity in me bows to the total depravity in you. Anyway, so I want to start with the first of the 8 limbs, which is yama. I just mentioned that a few minutes ago. And these are prohibitions. These are things that you shouldn't do. And a lot of people, it happens that there are 5 of these, and people tend to compare them to some of the 10 commandments, and then the other 10 we'll talk about. And there are some correlations, but not always. The very first yama is ahimsa. Ahimsa. You probably heard that before. If you're a student of Gandhi at all, ahimsa is refraining from violence. Violence of any kind, even violence of the mind. So one might say it loosely is compared with thou shalt not murder, one of the 10 commandments. The second one is satya, truth. To always be truthful, to work towards the greater truth. And of course, there is a prohibition against lying, thou shalt not bear false witness in the Decalogue. After that is asteya, which is non-stealing, again, also part of the Decalogue. And these are rather self-evident. Why should we live our lives with these prohibitions? The next one is brahmachari. Brahmachari is sometimes translated as celibacy, but it doesn't have to be celibacy. It can simply mean self-control, particularly in the area of sex, but above and beyond that, just being able to control our sense appetites. And finally, apahigraha. Apahigraha is greed, to refrain from greed or possessiveness. Again, these are pretty self-evident. To be greedy, to be a liar, to be a thief, to be sexually promiscuous, or unable to control one's appetites in any sense. How can you live a spiritual life with that kind of activity, right? I said you could meditate for a couple of hours a day. The people who are involved in the activities that these are recommending against, they're not even going to want to meditate. They're too busy fulfilling their sense appetites. Now, the second limb is niyama. Niyama means the proscriptions. This is what you do to elevate yourself, to be able to practice these yoga philosophies and meditations, etc. Now, the niyamas begin with saucha, which is purity of body, purity of mind. And we could spend an hour each on each one of these things. But cleanliness, having a pure heart, attempting to not think ill of anyone. And there's nothing like this in the 10 Commandments, right? I don't think that you could make that claim, other than maybe the ones opposing sexual activity, incorrect sexual activity. I like the next one of the yamas, santosh. That means contentment. You are actually encouraged to foster your own contentment. Think about that. God wants you to be content. And here's another thing too. The difference between the yamas and the niyamas and the 10 commandments are that the 10 commandments were sold as these offend God. When you do this or don't do that, you're offending God. The philosophy behind these proscriptions and prohibitions, God has nothing to do with it. God is God. God doesn't get displeased. They are simply to encourage our happiness and become the gateway to enlightenment. It's interesting, in the Catholic tradition, many Catholics say the act of contrition, to ask for forgiveness of sin. And there's one line that says, I am sorry for my sins because they offend, I'm sorry for my sins because of thy just punishments, but more important, because they offend thee, my God. So there are two reasons to be sorry for sin. First of all, just punishments means going to hell. So you're sorry because you fear hell. And the second, and considered more important, because they offend God. This has nothing to do with that. This is simply living right and gaining the benefit of living right. Tapas is the next niyama. Tapas is self-discipline, being able to withstand discomfort, not encouraging us to bring discomfort upon ourselves. We don't have to lie on a bed of nails. Many yogis have, and maybe they were thinking, well, geez, the more I can put pain into my life, the higher up I'm going to go. In the same way that you had Christians, I hope they don't do it anymore, but for a long time you had Christians who would flagellate, who whip themselves bloody, thinking that God really liked that God enjoyed this blood sacrifice, so to speak. The next niyama is svadhyaya, self-study. To be able to introspect, to be able to know who we really are, to be honest with ourselves, that this is the state I am in right now. This is where I need to improve. This is where I have made improvement. But being honest in knowing ourselves, as Socrates said, right? Know thyself. This is that. And finally, Ishvara Pradidhana. Ishvara Pradidhana. Ishvara is another name for God, and it means surrender. Surrender in devotion. Surrender to that mystery, knowing full well that whatever we do, we will be taken care of in the end. This body can be ripped to shreds, but the true you, the true me, we're gold. We're taken care of. Our ultimate destination is divinity. To merge into that divine ocean. That's the promise of yoga. I want to talk about one more limb, and I'll be very brief, and that is asana. And asana, we think of hatha yoga often because those are asanas. I like to describe asana with the small a and a capital A. So the hatha yoga asanas would be small a. Patanjali doesn't say we have to do all of those postures to be good yogis. But those postures allow us, among other things, to sit in meditation quietly and forget the body. Because a healthy body meditates better than an unhealthy body. But the only thing that he's requiring here is for us to be able to sit in the kind of position that I began our meditation with the spine erect, the shoulders back, chin parallel with the floor. Whether you cross the legs or sit in a chair, that's fine. I'm running out of time right now for today's session, and I promise you the next time we get together, I'll be speaking about other parts of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. We'll go from pranayama to samadhi. So once again, congratulations on your anniversary this month. And I really do look forward to seeing you in person sometime sooner rather than later. God bless.
Thank you again, everyone, for a beautiful service today. Thank you, Linda and Fred. We always enjoy having you with us, and you always share your hearts with us, and we appreciate that so much. And thanks to everyone for joining us this afternoon. And remember that you can rewatch or watch the service on our website, on our fellowship web page or Facebook page, and also on our YouTube channel. So we're so grateful for this time of virtual gathering together, and knowing that we can still gather our energy, and it's been a wonderful experience, even though we miss each other, that in-person fellowship. We know that we're still together, we know we're still here for each other, supporting each other, and that's such a wonderful, wonderful feeling for all of us. This is the last Sunday of our 37th anniversary month, and so next Sunday we'll be moving into our 38th year as a fellowship community. That just warms my heart, and I hope all of you continue to join together with us in this gathering together, and take advantage of all of the groups and activities and studies and learning experiences we have available. I want to remind you all how much I love you. We'll be back again next Sunday, so please join us. And right now we're going to gather in our big giant virtual peace circle, extend our hands to our neighbors and feel them feel that in your hand, and know that we're all together. And then we'll close with our blessing. The words will be on the screen. So have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next Sunday.
Truth.